It was exactly 3:13 a.m. when Emily's eyes snapped open, not from a dream or nightmare, but from the sharp buzz of a phone she hadn't touched in nearly 5 years. The old Nokia rested deep inside her bedside drawer, long abandoned, its battery presumed dead like the memories she had tried to bury. Her hand trembled as she pulled it out, blinking against the faint blue glow of the screen. One missed call. One voicemail. The name that appeared on the display struck like a lightning bolt through her soul: Lily. Her daughter. Gone since April 14, 2018. Presumed dead. Officially closed. The authorities had given up. Friends had moved on. Therapists told her to process the loss. But grief isn't something you process. It's something that lives in the cracks of your voice and sleeps curled up under your ribs. And now, without warning, her daughter's name was staring back at her, freshly imprinted on a piece of tech that should have long given up the ghost. Her breath shallowed as she opened the voicemail. She expected static, a glitch, maybe a misdial. But what came next was a sound she hadn't heard in years. Soft, hesitant, impossibly real. "Mommy? Mommy, are you there?" The voice was unmistakably Lily's, but deeper, aged, weathered by time. As if she had continued growing up, somewhere else. Emily clutched the phone as her knees buckled and she slid down beside the bed, heart pounding like a trapped bird in her chest. "It's cold here," the voice continued. "It's not dark, but it's not light either. I miss you." The air in the room changed. It felt thicker, pressing in around her. There were no words in her throat, only a raw ache she hadn't felt this intensely since the day Lily vanished. Her fingers hovered over the reply button, but what could she say? What language exists for a ghost, for the dead speaking through circuits and silence? She didn't speak. She only pressed the microphone and whispered, "Lily? Is it really you?" Her voice cracked on the last word. The recording ended. No signal. No trace of who called or where it came from. But Emily knew that voice. No mother forgets. Not after 7 years. Not ever. She pulled her knees to her chest and stared at the screen until the light died again, but her mind raced like a firestorm. Questions, impossible, terrifying, hopeful, surged like waves. Was Lily alive? Had someone faked the voice? But how would they know the way she said "mommy," how she always hesitated on the M sound? It was too specific. Too real. She rushed to her laptop, plugged in the old phone, and tried to back up the file. But the computer wouldn't read the device. "Device unknown," it said. She tried again. And again. Nothing. The voicemail was there, she could play it, but it was like it didn't exist in any technical way. She brought the phone to her chest and listened again. "Mommy." Then again. "I miss you." Every replay chipped away at her doubt and sharpened her dread. And as dawn began to creep through the edges of the curtain, she sat still, body curled on the floor, the old phone pressed to her ear, playing that same soft voice on loop like a mother clinging to the echo of a heartbeat. She didn't sleep. She didn't cry. She just listened. The world felt different now, heavier, closer to something unspeakable. When her husband John shuffled into the room at 6 a.m., rubbing his eyes and asking if she was okay, she couldn't answer. Not yet. Because in that moment, Emily wasn't sure if she was crazy or chosen. All she knew was this: she had received a message from her missing daughter, a voice sealed in digital mystery, time-stamped exactly at 3:13 a.m., the same hour the police had told her Lily likely vanished from the backyard. The coincidence wasn't coincidence anymore. It was a door. She just had to decide whether to open it. And somewhere, far from time and reality, a little voice whispered again, "Don't forget me, Mommy." It wasn't part of the original recording. Emily didn't sleep the next night, nor the one after that. The voicemail became oxygen. She breathed it in, replaying every syllable, dissecting every background sound. She wore headphones to block out the world and sat on the edge of her bed like a statue, listening over and over again, not just for Lily's voice but for what lay behind it. The second message came exactly 24 hours later. Another 3:13 a.m. vibration from the same dead phone, still not plugged in, still not connected to any network. The screen blinked once. One new voicemail. Her hands shook worse than before as she tapped play. Lily's voice returned, gentle, confused, but not scared. "I miss Muffin," she said. "Does he still sleep on the porch?" Emily's heart stopped. Muffin was Lily's cat, long dead, a ginger tabby who used to curl up at the back door every night. The name hadn't been spoken aloud in years. "And do you still make stars on the ceiling when it rains?" the little voice asked. That part nearly broke her. Emily used to tape glow-in-the-dark star stickers on the bedroom ceiling during thunderstorms to help Lily sleep through the sound. Nobody outside their home would know that. Nobody except her husband, and he didn't even remember until she reminded him, tears in her voice. "What does it mean?" she asked him, voice barely above a whisper. "You think someone's trying to get inside my head?" John stared at her like she was breaking apart in front of him, like grief had finally turned into delusion. "Maybe it's an old recording," he said. "Maybe someone hacked the phone." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. There was too much specificity, too much eerie timing, too much of Lily in that soft tone. Emily didn't argue anymore. She simply held the phone close and waited. She called the number back, again and again, but it never rang. She brought the phone to a repair shop. The technician said the SIM card wasn't registered to any carrier, and the IMEI was showing up as retired. "It's not connected to anything," he said, handing it back with furrowed brows. "But you're getting voicemails? That's impossible." Emily just nodded and walked away. She couldn't explain what was happening, only that it was real. Her next move was private. She sat at her dining table, pulled out a photo album, and began listing memories, specific ones, like a test. Then, she recorded her own message on the old phone. "Lily, if it's really you, what color was the blanket you took everywhere? What did we call your secret hiding place behind the bookshelf?" She felt stupid doing it, like performing a séance with circuits. But she had to know. The message didn't send anywhere. No sign it recorded. But the next night, another voicemail came. 3:13 Uhr nachts. Lily's voice, clearer this time. The blanket was purple with white moons, and we called it the rabbit hole. Emily dropped the phone. She could barely breathe. The rabbit hole was something they invented together, just the two of them, a tiny space behind the bookshelf where Lily used to hide when she was upset. No one else had ever seen it. Not even John. Emily ran to the shelf in the hallway, pulled it away from the wall, and found a single item wedged in the corner, a dried daisy in a plastic wrapper, something Lily once tucked into a note that read, "Mommy, you can come in too." The paper had yellowed. Her hands shook as she touched it, felt the brittle flower, remembered the giggle that used to echo in this hallway. Was Lily reaching out through time? Was she trapped somewhere? Dead but not gone? The boundaries of grief and reality blurred. Emily started carrying the phone everywhere, in the car, in the shower, to the garden. Her friends noticed her changing. "You need help," they said. "You need sleep." She smiled in return, hollow and polite, because none of them had heard what she had. None of them knew the ache of loving a ghost who still whispered to you in the dark. A few days later, something new happened. At 3:13 a.m., there was no voicemail. Instead, the phone buzzed once and displayed a notification, one audio file saved. No call. No message. Just a recording she never made. With trembling hands, she opened it. Lily's voice again, this time older, maybe 11 or 12. "Mommy, I saw the moon through the glass last night. It looked like home." The sentence didn't make sense. Lily had vanished at 6 years old. Why would she sound older? Unless she'd been somewhere all this time. Growing. Living. Observing. Her mind spiraled. Could someone be using AI to fake this? But why? Who would go to such extreme lengths to torment her, and how would they know so much? She thought about hiring a private investigator again. Thought about contacting a paranormal medium. Instead, she went back to the rabbit hole and sat inside it in the dark, holding the phone to her chest. "I believe you," she whispered. "I'll never stop." And somewhere, across space or death or something that neither language nor technology could define, a little girl listened. Emily no longer marked time in days or hours, only in the rhythm of 3:13 a.m. Everything else dissolved into a blur of silence, longing, and obsessive vigilance. She started setting alarms early just to be ready for the voicemail before it arrived. Every night, she sat with the phone pressed to her chest, waiting. Each day she wrote notes, cataloged clues, replayed messages, even traced old crime scene maps of her neighborhood where Lily had disappeared back in 2018. At first, she told herself this was for closure, for understanding, But deep down she already knew, this wasn't about closure. This was a door slowly creaking open, and Emily couldn't stop herself from stepping closer. On the fourth night, the voicemail arrived not as a whisper, but as a melody. A soft, humming tune. Lily's lullaby. The one Emily used to hum during car rides to help her sleep. Only now, it sounded older, fractured, like it was coming from underwater. Emily gripped the phone as the tune played, her heart punching her ribs, and for the first time, her breath hitched not from grief, but from fear. Because the humming was interrupted halfway through by a second sound, another voice in the background, faint, garbled, whispering her name. Not Mommy. Not Lily. Emily. That voice didn't belong to her daughter. It was deeper. Throatier. She replayed it, again and again, isolating the frequencies on her laptop, trying to clean up the audio. It wasn't just a name. The voice said, Emily, stop looking. She dropped the headphones like they burned her and stumbled back from the desk. The whole room seemed to tilt. Until now, every message had been a breadcrumb of hope. Now something, or someone, was warning her. Threatening her. But how? Why? She sat frozen for hours, haunted by the whisper, until sunrise painted her living room in watery gold. Then she did something she hadn't done in 5 years. She called the detective who had handled Lily's case, Detective Armand Reyes, now retired. His voice on the other end was raspy but familiar, and after the initial small talk and polite condolences, she got to the point. I've been getting messages, she said. From Lily. Silence stretched. From her. Reyes finally asked. Voicemails. Sent at 3:13 every night. From her number. Details no one else could know. She expected dismissal or gentle concern, but instead he asked, You still live on Fairgrove Drive? Her stomach tightened. Yes. He sighed. Emily, when Lily disappeared, there were details we didn't release publicly. One of them was that your street, your entire block, was built over what used to be a communication bunker during the Cold War. A deep one. Miles underground. She blinked, confused. What does that have to do with Lily? The line your daughter's last signal came from. It didn't bounce off a tower. It tunneled. Directly. Then vanished. Emily felt the blood leave her hands. You think she went underground? I don't know what to think. We traced that call to a manhole half a block away. It was sealed from the inside. Welded. No one could have entered or exited without tools. Or help. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because we couldn't explain it. We didn't want you holding onto false hope. Her head spun. Underground. A signal from a tunnel. Lily had once drawn a picture, Emily remembered suddenly, a crayon sketch of a staircase with no end, disappearing into blackness.
She used to say, There's a place below the world where voices echo.
Back then it seemed like make-believe. Now it sounded like memory. Emily left the house for the first time in days. She drove to the end of her street, parked beside the old storm drain, and found the manhole. There was rust on the edge, a worn symbol barely visible, 3 intersecting circles. She traced it with her fingers. Then, as if summoned, the phone buzzed in her jacket. 3:13 p.m. Not a.m.
Daylight.
First time it ever happened while the sun was up. New voicemail. Her heart nearly exploded. She pressed play. Lily's voice came through, barely audible over static. Mommy. I'm almost at the stairs again. A pause. Then, he doesn't like when I talk to you. Emily dropped to her knees right there on the curb, sobbing into her coat. She didn't care who saw her. Something had her child.
Something beneath.
Something that didn't want her found. But Lily was fighting, leaving messages. Begging to be remembered. She wasn't dead. She wasn't at peace. She was in between. That night, Emily tore apart her storage boxes in the garage until she found an old camcorder, the one she used to record Lily's birthdays. It had a flashlight, a decent mic. She charged it. Packed a backpack with rope, water, the phone, and an old stuffed giraffe. Then she returned to the manhole just before midnight. This time, she brought bolt cutters. The metal clanked like thunder as Emily snapped the lock off the manhole at 11:59 p.m. She paused only once before pulling it open, letting the cold breath of earth hit her in the face like a warning. The air smelled of iron and rotten time, untouched and ancient. She tied the rope to a nearby utility pole, looped it through the opening, and adjusted her backpack. Her hands trembled but didn't stop. With the camcorder slung across her chest, she descended into the dark. The ladder was older than she expected, steel but corroded, dusted with rust flakes that stuck to her palms as she climbed. She didn't look down. She didn't need to. The walls seemed to swallow the light above with every step. By the time her boots hit the concrete bottom, the surface world was gone. She turned on the camcorder's light. A narrow hallway stretched ahead, corridor walls lined with old fiber cables, some snapped, some humming faintly. It felt like walking through the arteries of a long-dead animal. Each footstep echoed 5 times. The floor beneath her seemed solid but wrong, like it didn't want her weight. Graffiti covered the walls, but not the kind teens leave behind. These were symbols, impossibly straight circles with interlocking arcs, etched deep into concrete. She recorded everything. "Lily," she called softly, her voice ragged. "Baby, can you hear me?" No response, only the static of the camcorder's microphone picking up a low electrical hum. She walked for 10 minutes before she reached a fork in the path. Left led into pitch black, right flickered with faint yellow emergency lights. She chose the light. It felt like instinct. Halfway down the corridor, her phone buzzed. She froze.
3:13 Uhr nachts.
Again. But this time no voicemail, just one word blinking on the screen: run. Her blood turned to ice. She spun around with the camcorder light, but the hallway behind her was unchanged. Still empty. Still humming. But her body suddenly screamed with a feeling she couldn't name.
Something watching, something waiting.
Then she heard it.
The lullaby. Humid, softly, from somewhere deeper ahead.
Not on her phone this time.
In the air.
Carried like a breeze that shouldn't exist in a sealed bunker. "Lily," she called again louder. The humming stopped. Silence swallowed everything, even her breath. Then a whisper, right beside her ear, "Don't let him see you." She spun around, but no one was there. Nothing. Her flashlight flickered.
The camera's red light blinked twice.
She moved forward, heart slamming. She had no choice. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, once a server room, now a skeleton.
Rusted racks stood like tombstone. Tangled wire drooped like vine from the ceiling.
In the center sat a chair, a child's chair. Yellow.
Plastic.
And on it, Lily's stuffed giraffe. Emily stumbled forward, picked it up with shaking hands. It was the same one she'd packed in her bag. She looked down at her pack. It was zipped. Unopened.
She unzipped it, breathless.
Inside, the giraffe was still there.
Another one.
2. Identical. Still warm, like recently held. Her mouth went dry. A soft giggle echoed behind her. She turned, but the corridor was still empty. Yet something had changed. The exit was gone. The hallway had sealed itself. Behind her now was only smooth concrete, uninterrupted, like the path had never been there. Panic surged. She banged on the wall, screamed, kicked it.
No sound carrier.
Even her own cries felt muffled, like yelling into a dream. Then came the footsteps, soft at first, then heavier. Not childlike. Not hers.
Something walking with une vaine rythme.
Closer. The camcorder's mic picked it up, registering frequencies she couldn't hear but could feel, deep, like bones rattling. She turned off the flashlight, backed into a corner, holding both giraffes. Then, out of the darkness, a voice: "You weren't supposed to come." It wasn't angry. It was tired. Male. Low and somehow old. Not in years, but in burden. Her eyes adjusted slightly. In the doorway stood a figure, tall, inhumanly thin, head slightly cocked like it was listening to her thoughts. She wanted to run. To scream. But she froze. The figure stepped forward and past her, literally passed through her. Cold swept over her body like a grave opening. Her knees buckled. The camcorder sparked. It restarted on its own and pointed itself toward the far corner of the room. On screen, a doorway shimmered into view. Not in real space, but on the screen. Invisible to her eyes, but visible through the lens. Through that lens, she saw a staircase, spiraling endless, just like Lily's drawing. And standing halfway down it, hand on the railing, was a young girl in a white dress. Blonde curls. She turned slowly and looked straight into the lens. "Mommy," she said, though her lips didn't move. Just the voice, clear, steady. "You're not supposed to be here yet." The camcorder shut off. Darkness swallowed everything. In the pitch black, Emily screamed. The darkness didn't fade, it folded, warped, and compressed until Emily's senses gave up trying to process it. Her scream had vanished into it, eaten before it ever reached the walls. There was no echo here. No sound at all. Only a pressure in her chest like being crushed by invisible hands. She reached blindly for the camcorder. When her fingers finally found it and pressed the power button, it whined, sputtered, then flicked on, its beam slicing a thin line through the dark. She was no longer in the room with the server racks. The walls were no longer concrete. They looked organic. Damp, uneven, glistening as if made of some fused material, bone, wire, and soil. It wasn't architecture. It was anatomy. She stood slowly, breath shallow, and turned in a slow circle. On every side, walls throbbed faintly, like a sleeping thing's breath. The floor pulsed. The staircase, visible only through the camcorder screen, still spiraled downward, impossibly far. But Lily was gone. Emily moved toward it, and immediately,
A tremor ran beneath feet. The concordé screen flickered.
Then the voice returned, not Lily's this time but the man's. It wasn't from the phone or from the air. It was in her head, clear and full of weight. "You're too late to take her back," it said. She froze. Her pulse spiked.
She's not you anymore.
Emily gripped the camcorder tighter, teeth clenched.
She's my doctor, she whispered à Lou.
She was, the voice replied. Now she's part of the system. The word system made her knees shake. It echoed like something technical, but far too vast.
Not computer.
Not mechanical.
A système older than anicity, deeper than memory.
She descended the invisible stairs, following the screen. 4 minutes or hours, she walked, past walls that occasionally rippled or whispered her name. Her flashlight flickered out again. Only the camcorder remained, and even its image began to distort, colors bleeding into each other. Then the stairs opened into a new chamber. An enormous dome with no source of light, yet fully visible. In the center was a pool, black, perfectly still, like a mirror laid on the earth. Suspended above it, a series of objects spinning slowly in midair. Emily approached, heart in her throat. The objects were toys. Lily's toys. The giraffe, a plastic teacup, a broken tiara, her favorite sock. They spun in impossible silence, unmoving despite their motion. At the edge of the pool was a figure, a childlike silhouette facing the water.
Blonde haïr.
White dress. Lily. Emily choked out. The girl didn't turn.
Emily stepped forward.
Lily, it's Mommy. I'm here.
I've been listening.
You've been leaving me messages. The girl turned slowly. Her eyes were wrong. No whites.
Just swirling reflection, like liquid silver.
You shouldn't be here, she said softly. Her voice was layered, Lily's pitch, but something else underneath. They know you've entered the chamber. They'll erase you.
Emily stepped closer, ignoring the warning. Baby, come with me.
I know how to get back. I brought the phone. I have your giraffe. She opened her backpack and held it out. The moment the stuffed giraffe left her fingers, it froze in midair, hovered, then spun toward the pool and joined the floating circle. It remembers, Lily said, tilting her head. Everything you give them becomes theirs. It gets catalogued. Stored. Emily felt something snap in her mind. Who is them? The girl's eyes pulsed. It doesn't matter anymore. You already fed it. That's how it found me. Through your grief. Your voice. Every time you called for me, you opened the system wider. Emily stumbled back. No, I was trying to save you. You were broadcasting, the girl said. It heard everything. The room began to shift. The dome ceiling peeled open like an iris, revealing a sky that was not a sky, just endless black with thousands of flickering screens hovering above, each showing fragments of people's memories. Some of them were hers. Her wedding day. Lily's third birthday. The night Lily vanished. All playing silently, overlapped, layered. A surveillance mosaic powered by longing. What is this place? Emily whispered. It's the vault, Lily said. The back end of everything. Suddenly, behind Emily, the floor cracked. A new figure rose, a tall silhouette made of cables and rotted cloth, eyes glowing dimly, like old LEDs. It didn't walk. It hovered. Emily turned, heart pounding, and stood between it and her daughter. Leave her alone, she shouted. The figure didn't speak. It extended one long finger toward Emily's chest. The phone in her backpack buzzed. New voicemail. She fumbled for it, screen flashing wildly.
3:13 nachts.
The girl's voice on the message said, "You can trade. One memory for one soul." Emily's breath hitched. What do you mean? The screen lit up with a list. A full menu of her life's moments, with thumbnails, dates, durations. A system UI. Choose one to erase. Pick a memory, Lily's voice echoed.
Give it up.
And I can leave. Emily's hand hovered over the screen. Her wedding day? The first time she held Lily?
Her own mother's funeral?
Every choice was a part of her. But her daughter stood watching, still and strange.
The system wanted at all. A permanent one.
She tapped one, the night Lily was born. The screen went black. Then glowed red. Accepted, the voice said.
Emily's mind shattered.
The memory vanished instantly, names, smells, feelings gone. Her body wobbled. Her balance shifted. She fell to her knees, breathless. But the spinning toys froze midair.
The girl blinked. Her eyes, normal now. Blue.
Human. She stepped back from the pool and into Emily's arms. Emily sobbed as she clutched her daughter. But everything else, the chamber, the pool, the sky of memories, began to collapse into code. Fragmenting. Rebooting. Emily heard the last whisper from the figure. The system always collects. Then everything turned white. White. Just white, endless and humming, like standing inside the static between two dying signals. That was all Emily saw. Her arms were still wrapped tightly around Lily, but the weight in her lap felt lighter, smaller, like holding an echo rather than a person. She blinked rapidly, her vision struggling to adjust, and slowly the white began to clear, pixel by pixel, like an image buffering on bad Wi-Fi. They were no longer in the vault. They were sitting on the floor of a room that looked exactly like Lily's old bedroom.
Sam lavant des walls, Sam faded rainbow de cal on the closet doors, Sam glow in the dark star stuck unevenly on the ceiling.
But none of it was real. The proportions were wrong.
The shadow fell the wrong way.
Lily looked up at her with blue eyes now, real eyes, but her skin glowed faintly, pulsing softly with each breath like a battery charging. Where are we? Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lily looked around, confused. It made this for us, she said. It wanted you to be comfortable, for the return. Emily's heart stuttered. What return? That's when the humming started again, so faint it barely touched the edge of hearing. But it came from everywhere, the floor, the air, inside her skull. A frequency of memory. She looked around. On every surface, on every object in the room, a version of her was reflected back. Not her face, but her moments. Laughing at age 6. Kissing her husband on their anniversary. The first time she ever saw Lily walk. But each image had a thin white line through it, like they'd been recorded off a TV screen. It still has you, Lily said. It let me go, but it didn't let you leave. It marked you. Emily stood slowly. Her backpack was gone. The camcorder vanished. Even her clothes had changed, back to what she wore the day Lily went missing. Marked how? She asked, though she didn't want the answer. By memory, Lily replied. Every time someone remembers you, it feeds again. Every voicemail, every photograph, every time your name is spoken. Emily's lips parted. But I'm not dead. Not yet, Lily said, stepping back, her voice hollowing out. But you're stored. Catalogued. Like me. The room flickered. The floor cracked. And suddenly they were standing back in the old subway tunnel, except it wasn't just a tunnel anymore. It was crowded. Dozens of figures stood there, unmoving, backs turned. Men, women, children, all with blank faces, all holding phones up to their ears. The only sound, static. Lily reached out and took Emily's hand. They never stopped listening, she said. They stayed too long. Now they can't remember who they are without it. One by one, the people turned. Emily gasped. Each had her face. But not exactly. Different versions, one older, one younger, one twisted in grief, one smiling blankly. They were all her. What is this? Emily choked out. Every version of you that the system tried to keep, Lily said. But you were louder. You called me too many times. You pierced it. Emily backed away, but the clones stepped forward. You broke the vault. But it won't forget that. Suddenly, the world shattered, like glass dropped in slow motion, and they were outside again. Not near the manhole, but somewhere deeper. A field of dead antennas, rising from the ground like rusted skeletons. Each one blinked with red lights, in sync with her heartbeat. In the sky above, giant eyes opened, screens flickering images from her life. Her phone buzzed. She didn't have it, but she felt it. Inside her hand. A vibration from her own veins. She looked down. The skin of her palm opened like a hatch. Inside was the phone, melted into flesh, part of her now. She screamed and tried to tear it out. Lily didn't move. It's done, the girl said. You made the trade. It keeps a piece of you. That's how it always works. Emily collapsed to her knees. But I got you back, she whispered. I got you back. Lily tilted her head. Did you? Then she smiled, too wide, too still, and blinked. Her eyes went silver again. She stepped back into the static, her body unraveling into particles. Emily reached out, but her hand passed through. A voicemail played from nowhere. Mom. I'm okay now. Please don't come looking again. And the voice repeated, on loop. Behind her, the field of antennas began to pulse. She was standing in the middle of a broadcasting station, built not with towers, but memories. She was the transmitter now. Her memories would echo through the system forever. Emily stood alone, body shaking, as the world around her pixelated. She tried to scream, but her mouth opened and only static came out. Far away, in a quiet apartment back in the real world, a woman played back a voicemail she thought she had deleted years ago. A child's voice, Mommy. Then silence. Then laughter. She listened again. The timestamp said, 3:13 a.m. A new voicemail appeared. Not on Emily's phone, but on the woman's. A voice she didn't recognize whispered. You heard her, now you're marked too.